Hi friends, it's Amy. Welcome to my bookish life. Today I want to go over the 17 books that I read in the month of October. So let's get to it. All right. As I said, I read 17 books during the month of October with a total of 5,776 pages. 12 were for an adult audience, 2 for a YA audience, and 3 middle grade. 11 were in physical format, 2 were in a digital format, and 8 were in an audio format, some combination thereof. I read 2 advanced reader copies, 6 book of the months, 12 were books that I owned, and 5 were books that I borrowed. I gave star ratings between 3 stars and 5 stars, with an average rating of 4.3 stars, an average of 186.3 pages per day, and an average of 339 pages per book. This was a really great reading month for me. I hosted my first readathon. It went wonderfully. I smashed my book of the month reading goal, and I reached 500 subscribers on YouTube. Not only that, I reached 560. It was so great. It was such a great month. I will link my Ketchupathon vlogs down below so you can see my wrap up on what I read for Ketchupathon. It was such a fun time. Krista and I are probably going to be doing something similar sometime soon. Eventually. We will see. I filled up my Tic Tac TBR board from Ruby Red. It was a lot of fun. I had a romance and air element, a woman of color author, book of the month, TBR vet, rural setting, historical fiction, waitlist, and a book that I was on the waitlist for, and a new to me author. So the first book that I finished was Sisterhood of Sleuths by Jeneva Chambliss Bertram. This is a middle grade book. If you read Nancy Drew when you were younger, or you want your child reads Nancy Drew, or you want to spread the love of Nancy Drew, this is a must read. There was so much Nancy Drew nostalgia here. Even if you don't love Nancy Drew, I think there's a lot of nostalgia behind just reading in general. Maisie is our main character, and she finds a box full of Nancy Drew books in front of her parents' thrift store, and they don't usually sell books because there's a used bookstore in town, but Maisie decides that she wants to hold on to these Nancy Drew books because she sees evidence of her grandmother's influence inside the box. It is such a cute mystery, such a great deep dive into history and how characters were historically treated, how people were historically treated. Like, it's just so great. I loved it. I loved it so much. I was on the list for this book for the ARC train that the author put out on Facebook, but I didn't get it by the time that it was published. However, I did receive an advanced listening copy of this from Libro FM. It was fabulous in audio. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it regardless, but just a top-notch book. So great. The next book that I finished was Unlocked by Shannon Messenger. This is the novella 8.5 of The Keeper of the Lost Cities. And the part that I focused the most on was the last 300 pages or so of the novella. And there's a ton of guide to the world of Keeper of the Lost Cities at the beginning. There's some really cool stuff there. There are records from the from the health center and records from the relationship, whatever. I can't remember what it's, the places, the people that decide, the matchmaker, whatever. I'm totally at a loss. There's so much great, interesting information there that I kind of skimmed through a lot multiple times. And then there is a novella that is from the point of view of Sophie and Keith. So we switch off between those two points of view, which is a little bit different because usually with The Keeper of the Lost Cities, we only have Sophie's point of view. So the fact that we also see things from Keith's point of view in this is so fun, so cool. Keith is a great character. It was great. Caught us up in The Keeper of the Lost Cities series for our read aloud until Stellar Loon just came out November 8th. So now we have to read that. The next book that I finished was Memories Are Murder by Leslie Langtry. This is book 24 in the Mary Rath Cozy Mystery series. Mary Rath is an ex-CIA turned Girl Scout leader, and Mary's CIA past comes back to haunt her in this one. It's a lot of fun, and you know, the same old ridiculousness that I have come to love and expect from the Mary Rath Mystery Series is absolutely present. Really, really enjoyed it. The next book that I finished was One of Us is Dead by Jeneva Rose. This is my first Jeneva Rose book, and I really did enjoy it. We have Jenny, who is the owner of Glow Salon, and in the present day, Jenny is speaking with the police about a death in the group of rich people that frequent her salon. So it's a lot of rich people behaving badly. There's a lot of infidelity. There's a lot of divorce, all kinds of bad behavior going on, but it's kind of fun. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It's not for the faint of heart. Definitely not. And somebody who is averse to swearing, probably going to want to stay away from this one. However, it's kind of funny. It is very richly plotted out, and I really enjoyed it. So that's One of Us is Dead by Jeneva Rose. The next book that I finished was She Wouldn't Change a Thing by Sarah Adlakha, and oh my gosh, this was the start of perfection in my reading life. Started with She Wouldn't Change a Thing. This is a sliding doors-esque narrative where Maria is 39 years old one day, and then she wakes up as a 17-year-old. Then she needs to decide if she is going to fix the thing that she was sent back to fix, or if she's going to keep things the same and, be able to eventually get back to her life. And she needs to make this decision. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It definitely gave me Dream Daughter vibes, and I loved it. I loved it so much. Then I read the Book of Cold Cases. It was my first book for the Ketchupathon. And oh my goodness, I love Simone St. James. She knows how to write creepy, thrillery wonderfulness. We follow two timelines here. 1977, we have the lady killer murders going on, and the suspect is Beth Greer, who is, one of the richest people in the community. And then in 2017, Shay is running a true crime website, and she decides to look into the lady killer murders, and oh, it's just so good. It's a haunted house trope, and it's creepy in the very, very best way. I so loved it. Then, to continue my 5-star rampage, I read The Story Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. This book is so beautiful. I just love it. A.J. Fikry is a widowered bookseller, and he is very grumpy about the fact that he no longer has his wife. But one day, a baby is left in his store. She's like 2, not really a baby, but is left in his store, and he kind of gets attached. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's, oh. So beautiful. Before every chapter, there is a review of a short story from AJ, and they're so cute, spot on, wonderful little reviews, and it's just really great. These allusions to different stories, different famous stories in history are great. It will spoil the stories for you, though. However, I was okay with it. So, the next book that I lied suffered from being the next one I read after 3 5-stars in a row, and that was The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. I really enjoyed this. It's about the 2008 recession. It's pretty heavy hitting, and it's really a beautifully tragic story. Ruth was 17 when her baby was forcibly given up for adoption, and now years later, she wants to grow her family with her husband, but she doesn't feel ready because she just wonders about this baby. So she goes back to her hometown in order to see what she can find out about what happened to this baby. There are definitely things about it that bugged me. I did not like certain aspects of the husband. I thought that he was kind of, I don't know. You can hear more about what I thought about that in my Ketchupathon vlog. I don't want to talk more about how much I disliked this husband because I kind of get where he's coming from, so I don't want to hate on him too much. The next book brings me right back to 5 stars, and that is Other Birds by Sarah Addison. I loved this book. It was this beautiful exploration of a found family, and you get to watch this family form, and I just really loved it. It's a magical story. It takes place on Mallow Island, and Zoe has claimed her mother's old apartment, and she decides she's going to live there. And when one of the residents suddenly dies, she is hired to clean out the apartment, and she discovers all kinds of wonderful things and makes all sorts of friends and eventually family. It's beautiful. The next book that I read was This Tender Land by William Kent Krueger, and oh my gosh, I loved this book so much. Again, I this takes place at this starts at the Lincoln Indian Training School, and Odie and his brother Albert are the only non-Native Americans at this school, and they run away with Mose, who is a Sioux who has had a very tragic thing happen to him in that he is unable to speak, and Emmy, who has just suffered a terrible tragedy, and they are canoeing towards the Mississippi River in order to find freedom. Very Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer-esque, very Odyssey, grand journey-esque, wonderfully written, beautiful imagery, beautiful characters, so much sadness. Watch that. Watch out for that. But so beautiful and tragic in the most hopeful way. Loved it. The next book that I read was Breathless by Amy McCullough. This is a cozy mystery adjacent book. We do definitely have an amateur sleuth, but I definitely didn't feel very cozy. It was very, very thrillery instead of cozy. But Cicely Wong is the main character. She is a journalist, and she is handpicked by Charles McVeigh, a famous climber, to be granted an interview. But first, she has to summit Manaslu, and then the murders begin. It's so wacky, crazy, and you add that extra element of the altitude sickness, and oof, man, it's a trip, and I loved it. The next book that I finished was The Neighbor's Secret by L. Ellison Heller, and this takes place in Cottonwood Estates. It's another rich people behaving badly book. The book club of the estates is where all of the gossip is found. Lena is an older resident of the community, and she has this huge secret that she has been hiding from the community and doesn't want it to get out. And then Jen has a troubled son, and she's trying to do everything she can to find help for him and keep him out of the gossip that is in the book club. And it's a great character study. There's a lot of character drivenness in here. Once you get towards the end, the action does pick up more, but it really starts out kind of slow in that I almost didn't think I was going to like it. But as I got more and more into it, I was really, really into it. It had a really intriguing plot, and it had really intriguing characters, and I really loved it. The ending was great. It was great. Like, it was so good. I loved it. I love the ending so much. The next book that I finished was Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This was Krista at Books and Jam's patron book club pick, and it also was a book of the month book, although I didn't have it for book of the month, so I didn't get to count it for Ketchupathon. But it follows Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist, and through completely tragic and horrible circumstances does not actually have her degree, but she is working in a chemical field. However, she's got things going against her because it is the 1950s and women are frowned upon. Many aspects of work. She falls in love and something happens, and she is pregnant and has a daughter, and she wants to show her daughter all of the amazing things that she can do. It's really a beautiful story that has a lot of trigger warnings in it. There's sexual assault, there is discrimination, lots of terrible things. However, there is a dog that is a super cool character that I love. So there you go. The next book that I finished was Fly by Night by Tara O'Connor, and this is a graphic novel that one of my students gave to me after she read it and was like, you need to read this because it's so good. So I did. I only had a day to read it because she had promised it to somebody else already. So I buckled in and I read it. We have Dee is the main character, and she is in kind of a parent trap situation where mom and dad live far apart, and they have a set of twins, and one twin goes with dad and one twin goes with mom. However, Dee's sister disappears. Dee thinks that this magical creature who is part of the community where her mom lives is behind the disappearance. And it has really spooky vibes. You meet this mystical creature. Obviously, it's fantasy. The illustrations are beautiful. The coloring is gorgeous. I love the theme of these colors. It's just so beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. However, for a young adult fantasy, there were definitely parts that were hard to read. However, I really liked it. It was really good. Just be aware. Just be aware. The next book that I finished was Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw, and this is a continuation of Nightmare Before Christmas. So it explores the other holiday realms. Sally and Jack are married and they go on their honeymoon to the Valentine's Day realm, and they discover other magical realms within their world. And we learn a little bit more about Sally and her past. It's a lot of fun. So nostalgic, very cozy. I really liked it, and it was a fun, quick read. So, yeah, if you're looking for that Nightmare Before Christmas nostalgia, it's there. It's really there, definitely, for sure. The next book that I finished was The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling, and if you don't know, Erin Sterling is Rachel Hawkins. I was unaware of this fact, so I just feel like I need to tell everybody. But The Ex-Hex is a really fun fantasy. We have, it's like the witch trope to it, which I don't usually love, but I kind of loved this. It was very humorous, very romantic, definitely fantasy. This is also a book of the month book, but I don't have it as a book of the month, so I didn't get to count it at Ketchupathon. Just saying. Anyway, the main character is Vivian Jones, and she accidentally cursed her ex because she was very upset with him. And her cousin cursed Reese. And didn't really think anything of it for a while. But then years later, Reese comes back to the town of Graves Glen in order to tone the town's magic with his family legacy, and chaos ensues. It's very funny, a little bit spicy, and I really enjoyed it. And I am looking forward to reading the second book, The Kiss Curse. So, the next book that I read, and last book, was I Escaped the Haunted Winchester House by Scott Peters and Ellie Crow. This book was a surprise. So, it was a read aloud that I was doing with my 6th and 7th graders. I read this book aloud to them. It is historical fiction. It's middle grade. If you know somebody that enjoys the I Survived books, this is kind of a similar type of series. I escaped a historic event every time. These are available in KU, which I don't remember how it came across that we all of a sudden saw it when I don't know what we were looking for. I don't remember. But I think we were looking for a book about the Donner Party, and I found I Escaped the Donner Party, which we're reading now. But I found that, but then they saw the Winchester House, and they were like, that sounds even more interesting. And so that's the one that we read. We actually took a vote out of several of them, and this is the one that they chose. The second one was the Donner Party, which is why we're reading it now. You know, it is what it is. So I Escaped the Haunted Winchester House takes place in 1906, and if you don't know, the Winchester House was built by the family that is behind the Winchester rifles. And legend has it that the family is cursed by all of the people that were killed by Winchester rifles in history. Sarah Winchester, who is the wife of the original inventor, was driven to madness by several events that took place in her life, including the death of her husband and the death of her children. And so she was convinced that as soon as she finished building her house, she was going to die. So she built the house in a way in that it was constantly being built on, it was constantly changing, and she built all kinds of like hidden pathways so that a ghost would get lost. It's a fascinating topic if you ever feel like a deep dive into a historical piece of history. This particular book follows Jesse, who's 15, and he wants to become a photojournalist someday. And he thinks that he can start his career by getting pictures inside the Winchester house on a day that he thinks that the lady of the manor is going to be away. Jesse finds himself in quite a lot of trouble. It's a very interesting story. My students and I deep dove into a bunch of different topics, looking up different things. It was a lot of fun in that respect. There were tons of rabbit holes. It was a little bit creepy, and really the story was interesting. We kind of like took a vote as to what the book should get, and the winning rating was 3 stars. So the story could have been more exciting. However, it was really informative and kind of a neat concept that they enjoyed. So they're enjoying the Donner Party again. I mean, they obviously want to dive into the series some more, so they didn't hate it. They really enjoyed it. So it was a lot of fun. And we finished it on Halloween. So it was kind of perfect. All right, so that's it. That's the 17 books that I read in the month of October. Let's get out my superlatives. I need to see if I can get some that I haven't gotten already, because I feel like I've gotten the same ones. Okay. I have 2. The best setting. Honestly, I think I need to give this to the Winchester house, because that just feels like a fascinating place to have a story take place. I think that the story could have been told better. However, it was a really great setting, and definitely a good time for that to be. I think also Breathless had a great setting, being on top of the mountain and having to deal with all of the other things that can kill you when there's murders going around, so people don't know that murders are happening because they think it's just altitude sickness, and oh my gosh, it's just great. Yeah, Breathless has a great setting as well. Yeah. Coziest mystery. Honestly, I did not read a lot of cozy mysteries this month, so I have to give it to Memories Are Murder, because that's the only cozy mystery I read in the month of October, which is a little crazy and a little bit sad, but it's okay. It's okay. It wasn't a cozy mystery month for me. So, it was definitely a great cozy mystery, definitely a great addition to the Mary Wrath mystery series. And I, like it. Most likely to recommend, I think that I would have to say so many of them. I think The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry is one that I just feel like everybody should read, because it's just so beautiful. This Tender Land, in terms of heart and hope and grief, I think just is beautiful and beautifully written. And I would definitely recommend that. Yeah, like I would be most confident in recommending those two, I think. All right, well, I got two. Let's see what they are. Most likely to read aloud. Well, probably the one that I did read aloud. However, Sisterhood of Sleuths would be it would be good. It would be a lot of fun to read aloud. And it would hopefully get my students interested in Nancy Drew, because that's really just fun. Or mysteries in general. It's just really fun. And then this one, most underrated. I honestly had never heard of Fly By Night until my student found it when we went to the library. And it just was randomly there on the shelf. It was really good. I feel like more people should be reading this book. It's a beautiful world, and I just really enjoyed it. Definitely some trigger warnings, but yeah, it was great. It was great. I really think more people should be reading that one. All right, so there were some superlatives there for you. I hope you liked this video. If you did, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, I would love it if you would subscribe. I hope you're finding something wonderful to read, and until next time, happy reading. Bye!